And here we are, we're into round 7 of Pro Tour Gatecrash here. We've got Raphael Levy on the right up against Shahar Shenhar. Should be a nice matchup here. We get to see a little bit more of the way that the players were playing with control sort of matchup here.
Yeah, but both players playing variants on Bant. Shahar Shenhar and the Team Panic guys playing Bant decks that have... Oh, no, you know what? Shahar is not playing the Team Panic deck, which is what I assumed. We haven't seen deck that. He is playing... he's playing what looks like a mono red deck. We see a Stromkirk Noble and an Ash Zealot.
Now,
this is a completely unexpected turn of events.
But one I'm really happy about, I was really hoping to see a little bit of the red-green deck in action. It can be very, very aggressive.
I've been looking forward to seeing a Flinthoof Boar all day.
Oh yeah, I mean, we saw Grigor Petric Meritich a little bit in the feature match area with it, but here a Stromkirk Noble already with 1+1+1 counter and an Ash Zealot to follow up. This is a great start from Shahar. I mean, how do we expect this matchup to go? Raph Levy here, presumably a little bit on the back foot already.
I mean, yes. Yeah, well, there you go. You see he's going to Azorius Charm, the Stromkirk Noble, to the top of Shahar's deck, slow him down, make him start over.
But Shahar, Boros Reckoner, one of the key cards that we're hoping to see a lot of this weekend, it's coming straight down, meaning that he can keep the pressure up, even though that Stromkirk Noble is going to be his draw next turn. So
we talked a little bit earlier in the booth about the fact that Tomohiro Saito had a profound effect on this tournament in terms of like his basically standard play testing in the open and, you know, really just throwing a lot of really big decks out there. And the deck that Shahar Shenhar is playing right now is a deck that he called Saito Aggro.
Yeah, I mean, the most exciting card for me in this deck was Burning Tree Emissary, able to let him power out a lot of creatures very, very fast.
I'll play Noble. Sega.
So it looks like that Noble's coming back down now.
Right, the Tension Sphere took out the Reckoner.
But Rancor there on an Ash Zealot, and that makes that 2/2 first striker a lot more scary in the red zone, would you say? And is this Levy a little bit short on lands?
Let's see if we have our hand cams up. We do, and we can take a look, and we see that no, Raf's got he's got plays for the next couple turns.
But his option's a little different here. He has to worry about at some point putting lands into play and taking damage, not what you want to be doing against these red decks.
But at the same time, has to get to 4, wants to get his Restoration Angel into play.
4.
And Shahar Shenhar's hand here got a little bit of reach, got some burn in there, so Raph Levy going to have to be a little bit careful, already down to just 11 life.
I think he might be at 7 here. I'm not sure. I think he just took 9.
And really, that's exactly what the red decks are looking to do in this format. They're trying to get a lot of damage in, and presumably Shenhar doesn't want to give Levy the sort of time that he needs to stabilize.
Yeah, there comes Restoration Angel at the end of the turn. Let's take a look at what we see from Shenhar.
All burn all the time from Shahar Shenhar. He'll be very happy to just get this game over nice and fast.
It's really some burn some of the time, but that's fine because some time is a very small number. For,
Raphael Levy could very easily not have very much time at this point. Though Restoration Angel, a perfectly serviceable blocker here, and unfortunately not really able to do any flickering. No time for that. Now, Ash Zealot, it does mean that any cards played from the graveyard are going to be damage for Raph Levy. Is that likely to be relevant?
That's actually going to be relevant. I mean, we've seen Snapcaster Mage action all day. You know, Guillaume Wafatapa played a ton of cards out of his graveyard last round. It's certainly something that has never come up in that limited format, or almost never that I can think of, but certainly comes up all the time in Constructed.
And Levy here just having to sit back a little bit. All burn all the time.
More burn more of the time.
That's it looked like it was an extra Pillar of Flame there, 2 Pillar of Flame. So that's 7 points of burn just straight in Shahar Shenhar's hand. How aggressively do you think he should be deploying some of that?
I think depending on what Raph Levy does here right now, you know, Shahar's just going to finish him off.
And as fast as this game seems to be going, it sounds like some of the other games in the feature match area are going even faster. Eric Froelich already 1 game up there.
Over Paul Rennie, who was on that World Magic Cup team that won the inaugural World Magic Cup.
The Chinese Type 80?
Yeah. So a Sphinx's Revelation for 1 from Raphael Levy.
Every point counts.
Yeah. first striking Ash Zealot is really giving him fits.
Yeah, the Rancor turning the Ash Zealot into a 4-power first striker means that it's not something to be profitably blocked anymore by the Angel. And of course, the Rancor will come back if the Ash Zealot does somehow find itself in the graveyard. Oh, and is that... That looks to be enough burn to end game one quite decisively there. Raph Levy going to have to go to the sideboard and find something that he can do about all of that aggression from Shahar Shenhar. What sort of things we got in the sideboard here from Levy? What sort of options has he got?
Well, let's see. Rock's Faithmender seems like a fine card to be playing. And
Deck Faden is the greatest thief in the multiverse. Follow his adventures in the Magic the Gathering comic product by IDW. A special promo card unique to the IDW comic series comes in each issue. Find out more about these at wizards.com/magicmerchandise. So, we saw Rancor being pretty solid in that game. It really shortened the clock a little bit.
Well, it's not even shortening the clock. It just made it impossible for Raph to block. You know, combined with a first striker. So, we're going to take a look at
it'd be
Rancor.
great, yeah. So there it is, Rancor, the uncommon enchantment. It's been around for a little while, first printed in Urza's Legacy, where it was in the top 8 of the 99 World Championships. And coming back from the graveyard, a really powerful choice back then and now.
Oh, absolutely. I played with that card quite a bit when it was originally printed. It was supposed to be reprinted in 2011, in Magic 2011. That's interesting. But because Infect was around at the same time, they pulled the plug on that. Makes
a lot of sense. I mean, Infect plenty dangerous enough even without Rancor, so throwing it in there on top might have been a little bit much.
Although, interestingly, they did unleash the card on Modern because, you know, Urza's Legacy, not a set
yeah.
that was Modern legal.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool to see that like Rancor is now playing in the red decks. It's because of the quality of the mana fixing in this format, it's one that can be sort of splashed into a few other different types of decks. So even though what the card does isn't all that different from what it was doing back when it was first printed, it can do it in different places.
Right. So one of the things that's very interesting to me about these two decks that we're looking at, Raph Levy and Shahar Shenhar. Shahar's playing one of the few decks in this format, and we saw it also with Conley, that has any basic lands in it.
And in this format, like, there's very little punishment for not playing basic lands.
Take a look at Raph Levy's mana base here.
Are there any in there at all?
No, he has none.
Wowza.
He does not have a basic land. He's got Breeding Pools, he's got Temple Gardens, Hallowed Fountains, Sunpetal Grove, Sacred Foundry, Steam Vent, Hinterland Harbor, Kessig Wolf Run, Glacial Fortress, which, by the way, are two lands funny to say together in the same deck list.
Yeah, lots of different pressures on his mana base there, but with every land pretty much tapping for 2 mana, not really all that difficult to support them.
Right.
I guess that the other side of that is looking at Shahar Shenhar's sideboard. One card that he's got a couple of copies in there is Volcanic Strength. Now that potentially punishes people for playing basic lands.
Punishes people for playing basic lands, and also punishes people. It's kind of interesting. I thought I would see, like in the Jund list, I thought I was going to see more Stomping Grounds. There's not a lot, you know, if you don't like Gore-Clan Rampager, there's not a lot that Gatecrash offers to that deck specifically.
Yeah.
And, you know, the more mid-rangey ones, the aggro ones, obviously, Burning Tree Emissary. But the Volcanic Strength grants Mountain Walk.
Ooh.
So...
Yeah, the +2/+2, clearly not unimportant, but the fact that that creature's just never ever going to be able to be blocked for the rest of the game if there's a mountain in play.
Yeah, it makes your stomping grounds pretty problematic.
So
only it looks like only a Steam Vent here. So in the Sacred Foundry, Steam Vent and the Sacred Foundry are his mountains.
So,
but other than that, he's mostly banned.
In terms of what potentially more likely to come in for Shenhar, Skullcrack. This a Gatecrash card that there's a lot of life gain potentially in Levy's deck. And
well, again, Rock's Faithmender.
How many of them?
It looks like he has 4.
4 Faithmenders. I mean, every time you gain life, you gain double as much. That's a huge game against a red deck.
Yes, and again, he can do that on the 3rd turn with a Farseek.
Yeah. Horrible nightmare of a start from the control deck. But it looks like the player's now drawing their hands. We're just checking. Like Yes, they're just kicking off. It looks like...
Raph played a land.
Yeah, Levy there. It looks like a breeding pool to start with, and stomping ground there on the... Stromkirk Noble there on the other side of the board. Not one that's going to match up too well against that Augur Bolas, though.
Yeah.
Augur Bolas, not a human, completely able to block the currently 1/1 Vampire.
And it fetches a Supreme Verdict off the top 3 cards of his deck.
All of a sudden, Shenhar perhaps just going, well, maybe I might just have to burn you.
Right.
So Shenhar still completely mono-red. No need for any kind of second color mana there. And with a Searing Spear, he is able to get in with his Stromkirk Noble.
Where otherwise he might have played that differently, right? He had Burning Tree Emissary and another 2-drop. If he doesn't see the Supreme Verdict, he might play that turn differently. He might just take his time.
I love Burning Tree Emissary, by the way. I first encountered it in Limited, and any turn where you get to do anything big with it is just horrible, and in Constructed, even more powerful.
Right, tapped land, go from Raphael Levy. Cannot afford to play shock lands upright.
No, sir.
If at all possible.
A huge amount of burn in Shenhar's deck, and also very, very aggressive creatures. Just not worth it. But Shenhar here potentially casting quite a few spells thanks to that Burning Tree Emissary in his hand. Which line do you think we're going to go for here? Does he want to play into the Supreme Verdict that he knows is there?
No, he's just going to bring the Ash Zealot, and then I think he wants to keep a Burning Tree Emissary and another guy and back up for that follow-up turn.
I mean,
Raph kind of has the Supreme Verdict here if he can.
4 points of damage. You can't afford to let that Vampire get any bigger.
Yeah, although he did just draw an Angel. So let's take a look at what's in Raph's hand here.
So Levy there, he's got double Restoration Angel, double Rock's Faithmender. He's going to have a great follow-up to Supreme Verdict. And just the lands to support it. I mean, not a great deal more that Levy could really want from his hand. The Faithmender also, big enough toughness that it can block just about anything in the other deck.
Thinking.
Staring contest. I mean, Shenhar knows that the Wrath's there, the Supreme Verdict's there, so he's not got any incentive to play more creatures. Raph wants to get full value. He probably has to play the Verdict here, surely. And this is a staring contest that's ultimately going to hurt Levy.
There comes the Rock's Faithmender. It's difficult for Shahar to attack profitably through that.
Yeah, I mean, even with the Rancor he's just drawn that's going to be able to make one of his creatures
That's a little
big enough to trade, it's still not a great position for him. Though, of course, the Rancor coming back means there's really no penalty to him playing it out here, I guess. The Rhino Monk completely, again, able to block this Vampire. Human's not a big feature in Raphael Levy's deck.
Yeah, completely able to block, but not
too happy about it.
Not too happy about it. He just goes, I believe that's a 3/3.
3/1.
Has a couple counters on it. No?
Oh, I apologize, yes. So a 3/3 with Rancor on top, so a 5/3 in total.
Yeah, so this is just chump block gain 2.
Yeah, you got to do what you can to protect your life total, and Levy doing exactly that. So Centaur Healer, another great one for protecting life totals, and it's going to play very nicely with Rock's Faithmender as and when there's time. But he needs to make up a little bit of time here, so maybe we will see the Supreme Verdict trigger getting pulled here. Boom, there it is. Rancor going back to Shahar Shenhar's hand, but the rest of the creatures going straight into the graveyard there.
Raph's going to take 4 here.
Just straight up, right back into the red zone.
Yeah. No
delays.
Just Burning Tree Emissary into Ash Zealot into Rancor.
Well, Burning Tree Emissary, it's making a red and a green mana, so that the sequencing is going to be a little funny. He's going to have to leave that green floating.
It'll still be fine.
Levy here having to worry about the amount of haste also coming from these red decks. I mean, it's pretty much a common feature these days. All the red decks running as much haste as they can, and 4 coming straight in, followed up by Rakdos Cackler.
Yep, no burning tree emissary.
And unsurprisingly there, that Cackler immediately unleashed. So it's a 2-2 for 1. No blocking, but I don't think that Shenhar's going to be too worried about that.
Show you what's left in Shenhar's hand.
Meanwhile, we can see that there's a Kessig Wolf run from Raph Levy here. While it may be one of the key features for the deck's name, maybe not exactly the draw he was looking for at this moment. Though I guess...
Kessig Rocks run?
Cleveland Rocks. No, but I guess that the Rocks Faith Mender, you can give it a bit of extra power with that Wolf run. He can get pretty out of hand pretty fast. Oof. We got a nice creature to follow up here with Boris Rekner, just a massive creature on the board. It can deal damage even if Levy can deal with it. It's one of the cards we knew was going to be big going into the weekend.
Hard for the Bant deck, short of their... well, they got a couple ways, but...
I mean, Azorius Charm to put it back on top of the deck.
Combat's not your answer here.
Not at all. So the Rekner coming down now. A nice little board there for Shahar Shenhar, able to get into the red zone fairly profitably still. Rock's Faith Mender holding the fort back for Levy, just barely.
Can he get to...
I mean, I guess the one thing we should say for Levy here, he's very successfully got to sort of the mid-game, and he's still on 13 life. That's a pretty healthy life total against one of these red decks compared to what these red decks can do.
And here's a Centaur Healer. Gain 6, go to 19. He's got a Restoration Angel in hand.
Just 1 mana short and be able to cast that Angel for now, but...
Oh, has he played a land this turn?
There's the land, comes into play untapped, immediately gaining the life. He doesn't want to risk anything untoward happening. So now, all of a sudden, Levy in pretty good shape. Oh, Skullcrack right on time there for Shahar Shenhar.
Perfectly timed.
Late to the party, and the 3 damage, not really the important bit on Skullcrack here. He would have loved to be able to just stymie that turn good and proper. Burning Tree Emissary and not really using the mana for it, just a 2-2 for 2.
Just threw a bucket of sand on it and put it out. And now it's time to start attacking.
The Air Force, I mean, something that the red decks are a little weaker to. No blockers there for Shenhar, so he's going to take his first damage. Is that his first damage of the match?
I think it is. Unless he played a shock land. Got a result from one of the back tables. Paul Rietzel defeated Brian Kibler.
2 friends there.
Yeah, guys who go back a long way in this game.
And Kibler playing the aggressive Naya build, another deck that's kind of inspired by some of the decks that Saito's been testing out and playing with. We just heard as well that Lucas Xiao and Lee, they are tied at 1 apiece, so it looks like we're potentially going to have a match that we're going to be able to go over to after this one, depending on how long this match goes. Currently looks like Levy might be able to square things up.
Wins 2-0.
Yeah.
So Shenhar, he's...
Hawk's Faith Defender. Was this a card you were thinking a lot about coming into this event?
I must admit that I perhaps had overestimated the impact of Skullcrack on how much life various decks could gain. But I guess that the fact that Rock's Faith Mender every single turn, it's threatening problems with life gain. Another Restoration Angel in play here. Levy's just gaining a boatload of life. And with 2 flyers on the board, he's the one with the clock on this table.
Yeah, those Centaur Healers are main deck.
Wow,
those are not sideboard Centaur Healers.
And I mean, a 3-3 for 3, a very, very efficient creature. And when able to, Raph Levy ending that game on 33 life. That's just not at all what the red deck want to see. Do we think that being on the play is going to make a really big difference in this deciding game?
Certainly a big deal for Shahar here, who is going to game 3 after Raph Levy evened this up 1 game apiece.
Can't wait to try out standard and booster draft strategies straight from the Pro Tour? Log on to Magic Online and take part in special standard spotlight events, standard 2-person gold queues, and Gatecrash limited tournaments all weekend. For more information, visit mtgonline.com.
I would be willing to bet a lot of people are looking to see how many Crypt Gas they've drafted.
Oh yeah, and like one of the fun things, of course, that you can play this while watching, have both things going on at the same time.
Yeah, one of the cards, we talked about that match. As much as the Rock's Faithmender was a big deal, really Restoration Angel and the ability to reset that Centaur Healer was kind of a big deal. Let's take a look at what R&D had to say about Restoration Angel. Obviously, Avacyn Restored card that was a breakout in Standard last year.
Oh yeah, a very powerful rare. I mean, it gets to blink another creature to reuse its Enter the Battlefield ability, or just keep it alive.
It's exactly what we saw with the Centaur Healers.
Yeah, they weren't in danger of dying, but just being able to take them out of play, put them back into play again, gain an extra 3 life, or as we saw, in fact, 6. Just a huge play on many board states.
So appeared in an astounding 45 Grand Prix top 8 decks in its first year. That's a big number. And then they say often appears with Thragtusk, Snapcaster Mage, and Huntmaster of the Fells. We've seen all of those today, but Centaur Healer, that's the first time we saw it. Yeah. By the way, when you think about it, if that first Rock's Faithmender had been somehow allowed to live, how crazy.
Yeah, because those abilities stack up.
It would have been 24 life for each Centaur Healer, Restoration Angel parlay. Double
life gain for just terrifying amounts of life with every single Restoration Angel.
So, as long as creatures matter, right, and as long as creatures are going to have really good enter the battlefield effects or leave the battlefield effects, Karlach Restoration Angel is just going to be a great weapon at your disposal.
Yeah, I mean, going into its sophomore year now, and I think we could potentially see even more of it in the second year than in the first.
Yeah, absolutely. So our players, Shahar is on the play, but he is mulliganing his opening hand.
Not what you want to be doing on the play, especially. It's Levy on so many more cards now.
Yeah, and again, this red deck that's really looking to have this critical mass of threats very early, and sort of just go bash, 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 and be able to just finish off, right? Like that wants to treat its creatures like burn spells.
Sure. Now it can just go bash, maybe, and the one bash, probably not quite enough. Yeah. It needs to get a bunch of creatures on the board. What we should be looking to expect from this deck, I mean, turn 3 or 4, you want to be getting Levy down to low life totals pretty fast. So, looks like Shenhar just looking at his 6-card hand, and that one a keeper. He's starting things off there with, that's a Stromkirk Noggle.
Yeah, takes 2 from his stomping ground. And
don't think he's going to mind too much about that, though.
He's got a land from Levy, and then that
Rootbound Crag into Ashlar. This is how we do it. Let's get straight into the red zone with our red creatures. Levy already taking 3 damage there on 17 life. He did not want to play his land untapped there. The Hallowed Fountain just untapping now.
Sure. And
a Farseek to get a little bit ahead on mana.
Yeah, and really hoping, I guess he's hoping that for a turn 3 Rock's Faithmender, turn 3 Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
Maybe a Restoration Angel to ambush something.
But, I mean, we can already see from Shenhar's hand that he's going to have the chance to just get in there and get in loads of damage thanks to the fact that Levy hasn't been able to play any creatures thus far in the game. And we can see Burning Tree Emissary and Ash Slot there. Maybe just play the Ash Slot, get cracking into the red zone and have something to hold back.
Well, let's take a look. I mean, we're going to see, again, possibly that same sequence of plays for Levy with a Faithmender, Centaur Healer. If it still lives, he's got an opportunity for a Thragtusk. He's got the
Thragtusk.
He has everything in his hand that he needs to win this.
Yeah, he can just sit back and say, I will draw some more cards, thank you very much. But for now, I'm quite happy to just play the game with exactly what I've got going on right here. And I'm pretty sure I can deal with most of what you got going on. So a Lightning Mauler there in hand for Shahar Shenhar, and that pairs off very nicely with Burning Tree Emissary.
Yeah, absolutely. Shahar's really going to need running Skull Cracks at some point.
Yeah, 1 to the head. Well, 3 points to the head, crack you on the back of the head. No more life gain for you. Let's try and put this game away fast, because if we don't put it away fast, it's probably not going to happen.
And that's what he's just stepping it up. Burning Tree Emissary into Lightning Waller. Pair them.
Straight into the red zone. That's what... That looks like 3, 5... That's 9 damage coming into the red zone there.
But we know that Raphael Levy is able to cast Supreme Verdict here.
Foil Supreme Verdict there, reset the board. Nothing left on the board there, and not a great deal left from Shahar Shenhar here, though.
Shahar's got an Ash Zealot. He can get him down to 5. He can get him within 2 burn spells. Oh, he drew a Burning Tree Emissary.
So, Levy on 7. Shenhar kind of just living off the top of his deck here. Fingers crossed from him, one must assume, but not sure that he's going to be too happy to see how this next couple of turns go.
Yeah. The landing cards operating, still a very, very thin margin for Raph to work in. But it should be enough, I think.
The skin on his teeth is thick enough to survive these attacks. So this tied at 1-1. So in principle, really, really close. But knowing what we know, Levy potentially able to just squeak his way out of what has been pretty much, aside from like one Skullcrack away from being almost a perfect draw from Shahar Shenhar.
Yeah.
So almost like a matchup superiority here, perhaps.
Well, I mean, this is someone who has a very clear. He's like, I have a good plan for aggro in game 1. I have my Centaur healers, but I have a great plan for it in game 2.
And the sideboard been really important here. Those Rocks Faithmenders taking what was already a fair plan and just making it a little bit unfair, really.
And ramping up his Supreme Verdicts. He has the 4th Supreme Verdict in his sideboards. So Li Tianshen, from who was top 8 of our last Pro Tour, has defeated Lucas Xiao.
And Lucas, a great deck builder. We've seen him do all sorts of things in formats previously. It sounds like Frolic and Remy are tied at 1 apiece, so depending on how long this last game goes, we may be able to jump across to that one. Faithmender coming down for Raph Levy now, and a bit of a roadblock, though. Another haste creature there from Shahar Shenhar, so he's still just about able to get some damage in.
So he gains 2, takes 2, essentially.
5 life left for Raphael Levy. Let's see how much of that he's got by the time his turn ends.
Well, here, yeah.
Start things off a little slowly with the Augur of Bolas, having a look at the top of his deck.
I'll take everything.
Not really worried too much if he doesn't see a spell, but he sees an absolute cracker there in Supreme Verdict. If the worst comes to the worst, he now has a way of making sure that he can reset the board. But
gain 6 here. Wow.
All of a sudden, from being at 5 life, Levy now at a pretty comfortable 11.
And you see, cross that Centaur healer off his hand, but he's just...
He's toying with Shenhar now. Shenhar may not fully realize what a spot he's in, but he must be getting an inkling.
Go ahead.
Shi-10 wins 2-1.
If Centaur healer gives you 3 life, sorry, 6 life with the Faithmender in play, with a Thragtusk, all of a sudden
I'm pretty sure Shahar is just going to concede. Oh, and there's the Skullcrack.
So instead of going to 21, basically going back to the start of the game, only having a bunch of creatures in play, Levy now at just 5 life. So in principle, maybe Shenhar can get through this. But Levy now...
he's still got the Sphinx's Revelation.
And Sphinx's Revelation, I mean, in some matchups the card's more important, in some matchups the life. Here he's going to be pretty happy with both.
He's mostly just looking at that life, to be honest.
Instant speed, stream of life, plus a few cards on top. And Skullcrack there, just having a profound impact on the game, which would basically have been over if the Thragtusk had been able to do everything that it normally does. But that, a whole bushel of cards, that looks like 4 extra cards, so 8 extra life there for Raphael Levy, going up to 16 life there. And Shahar, like, the life total suddenly almost even, but Raphael Levy with the biggest creatures on the board.
Right. And now he's got another Rocks Faithmender.
Oh, 2 Rocks Faithmenders on this board is going to be a little bit filthy.
Yeah, and, you know, and Azorius Charm if he wants to give his creatures lifelink.
That's my brain cannot quite handle the amount of life that represents, but suffice to say, it will be enough that...
Here comes a Centaur healer. He gained 12 life.
So Raph on more than healthy 28.
I don't know that Shahar's deck has enough damage in it.
I mean, we know that there's an infinite life combo with Boros Ragnar, not one that we're expecting to see in this deck. Infinite damage is starting to look like the thing that you need to find in this format. So Flint Hoofball there is a 3/3 based on there being a stomping ground in play. So he's got the mountains, he's got the forests, and he could pay a red to give it haste, but probably doesn't want to get stuck in the red zone with that one.
Yep, there we go.
Shahar's barely paying attention to his... Yeah.
Just constantly looks at the final card in his hand.
Looking at his nails. Draw a card. Azorius Charm.
Just stoic little nods as every card comes here from Raph Levy.
Okay, thank you.
Is on a Kessig Wolf Run that he drew? Yes, it is.
Uh-oh. All of a sudden, could we see that a Rocks Faithmender getting into the red zone? Because with lifelink, that's a huge deal.
I really hope so.
Don't mess with a Rhino in a fight. They've got horns. They'll get you with a pointy end.
You got it. Why not play Azorius Charm lifelink attack with everything in Verdict? You gain like 1 billion. Like, how much life is that? You want to count real quick?
Yeah, but then like, doesn't matter.
Shahar's like, why wouldn't you just like gain 100? Gain 100.
The best that he can do here is just ask Levy about his play. He's got nothing more here. This game's all over. So now, we'd like to thank Gaming Etc. for being an official card retailer here at Pro Tour Gatecrash. Gaming Etc. is one of the premier destinations on the internet for all things Magic. For more information, visit gamingetc.com.